Tonight on CFTK-TV News, Terrace's RCMP recently finished a suspicious death investigation. Quite a bit of new and old news is revolving around BC schools over the last little while, and Kitimat's Hospital is supposed to get a new CT scanner.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Baslett, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. A release was recently sent out by BC Hydro disclosing that they are planning on triggering a power outage this upcoming Sunday in a part of the Bulkley Valley covering mainly the area between Telkwa and Kitwanga. The outage will last from 7 a.m. to around 5 p.m. and is being done so that BC Hydro's crews can do a transmission line relocation safely at Telkwa's local substation. The work being done here is also connected with BC Hydro's Prince George to Terrace Capacitor Stations project, which is planning on increasing capacity to the company's transmission line spanning between Prince George and Terrace so they can better meet the needs of their customers. The project will also see BC Hydro install 3 new capacitor stations near Burns Lake, Vanderhoof, and Telkwa. Police in Terrace have concluded their investigation into the suspicious death that saw an area near Brook Street closed off for days. The body was found in the nearby wooded area on the evening of August 15th. The death was initially deemed suspicious, but following the results of the autopsy, police have ruled out criminality. The identity of the deceased has not been released publicly. Funding has been committed and planning begun for a new CT scanner and unit at the Kitimat General Hospital. CFTK's Jaylene Matthews has more.
A new CT scanner unit and a newly renovated department will allow the Kitimat Hospital to deliver a range of clinical and diagnostic services. Computed tomography, CT, is an advanced imaging tool commonly used for diagnosing and assessing trauma patients, as well as those with a wide range of conditions, including stroke and cancer. Funds for the $4.7 million investment were a group effort with contributions from the province, as well as from the Kitimat Hospital Foundation, which contributed $2.4 million through community donors. Improved access to CT will provide physicians with the information to diagnose and treat patients sooner, and potentially further reduce the need for patient travel. Northern Health says the new diagnostic services available in the community will assist with recruitment of physicians, specialists, and nurses. This effort coincides with the Kitimat Healthcare Professionals Attraction and Retention Strategy. The Kitimat General Hospital's emergency department was closed for 14-hour periods 6 times in August and once so far in September. For CFTK News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
There is both some new and old news revolving around BC schools this upcoming year with the ongoing teacher shortage and new rules on phone bans in the province involving them. CFTK's Damian Smith has the details.
We're on to our second week of school here in British Columbia with some new changes made to cell phone use for students and some ongoing issues revolving around the provincial teacher shortage.
There's a significant mental health crisis in this province related to younger people, maybe older people as well, related to the addictions of cell phones. And for us, putting learning first and foremost is our mandate, and cell phones are interfering with that.
This past spring, the ministry created a legislation that every school in the province is to create their own bring your own device policy. And at minimum, kindergarten to grade 6 phones are to be off from bell to bell, and grade 7 to 12 is off limits in class, but permissible in hallways, lunch tables, and more.
Cell phones are interfering with students achieving their full potential, and it's causing mental health challenges, and therefore the requirement for the legislation.
However, expectations will remain for students with learning disabilities as the Code of Conduct cites student accessibility, communication, and autonomy. Teacher recruitment also remains an issue that the province is still looking to fix, with a number of job postings still on the Coast Mountains School District website.
I would like to acknowledge the work that school district staff have done in the past several years on the recruitment and retention issue. However, I'm I will tell you that I'm not optimistic about the teacher shortage ending anytime soon. Our demographic is in such a place that within the next 5 years we're going to see quite an exodus from our district for retirement. And I don't see the recruitment retention issue. Well, I see the retention issue improving, absolutely. I'm very optimistic about that. The recruitment part is going to remain a challenge. I continue to be in awe of the people with whom I get to work. And I'm very, very appreciative of them. And I look forward to the work that's going to happen with the new superintendent, Tracy McMillan, who will be joining us on October the 7th.
McMillan recently served as superintendent of schools in the Stikine School District and will replace Meyer after a 34-year career working in District 82. From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
Coming up next, calls are being made to reopen a BC psychiatric hospital in the wake of some violent incidents. Welcome back. Vancouver is currently governed by only one charter, and now the mayor of BC's second most populous city wants to have a charter that would cover land use bylaw enforcement and other municipal issues. Surrey's mayor and council did vote on the proposed charter, but as CTV's Shannon Patterson reports, it would be up to the province to decide if the plan would be enacted.
Vancouver has been governed by its own charter since 1953, but Surrey, like nearly all other BC cities, falls under the province's community charter. That's something the mayor wants to change.
Surrey will be the first city to reach 1 million people. We are going to be the largest city in probably 2 years, so it is Surrey's time.
Tonight, Surrey Mayor and Council will vote on a proposed Surrey charter.
Having a charter for the city gives us a great deal of independence on how we administer our fines, how we develop our city, how we look at land use.
But there's debate about whether having a charter has helped Vancouver.
The city of Vancouver has not been able to achieve more autonomy because it operates under a different and very, very similar statute to the community charter and the local government.
He believes for a mayor who's been at war with the province over policing, the push for a Surrey charter just weeks before the election is more about politics than policy.
The number of MLAs that come from within ridings that are in all or in part in Surrey, that group of elected MLAs could very well swing this election.
We're in an election right now, and certainly I think it's time that we had this discussion in Surrey. In fact, it's past time.
If mayor and council vote in favor of proceeding with the Surrey charter application, it would need to be approved by the provincial government, setting up another battle between the premier and Brenda Locke.
We need this to grow our city. This is part of our future.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Surrey.
As we saw with last week's violent attacks in downtown Vancouver, there are calls to reopen the Riverview Psychiatric Hospital, and there's no doubt there will be much discussion about Riverview during the election campaign. CTV's Penny Daflos, however, has a reality check on why the historic site may not hold the answers that many are looking for.
The site of the old Riverview Psychiatric Institution looks abandoned at first blush, but there are in fact 289 people receiving inpatient treatment there at this moment for drugs, mental illness, or both.
Medication that supports people through that journey, as well as, CBT, DBT.
In the wake of a horrific killing and maiming in Vancouver, there are renewed calls for institutionalization.
There are people on our streets who should be in secure and voluntary care.
How many more times does this have to happen before the government recognizes the historic stupidity of the decision to close Riverview Hospital?
One of its former CEOs has a different perspective.
Buildings are 100 years old, so if you're going to spend millions of dollars to renovate old buildings, you kind of say, well, why would Riverview be the place to do that?
In the 1950s, Riverview Hospital had 5,000 patients, many of them soldiers with PTSD. Some survived electroshock therapy and lobotomies. Downsizing actually began in the 1960s as new psychiatric drugs helped people live in the community. By the 1990s, the NDP government of the day shrank the hospital.
Quotas of number of patients to discharge to the community. So it didn't matter what their needs were, basically get them out.
The BC Liberal government shut down Riverview in 2012, continuing a pattern of decentralizing treatment spaces without a safety net.
We didn't have the housing, didn't have the social supports. We didn't have, all of the kinds of things that people would need to enact recovery.
Today, instead of one site at Riverview, there are more than 70 inpatient treatment centers for mental illness across BC.
In fact, we detain and involuntarily treat far more people now than we ever did at the height of Riverview's institutional population.
Experts agree inpatient treatment and access to multiple specialists are critical, but so is appropriate housing and ongoing support.
People want simple solutions, and yeah, they're usually wrong. It's also an enormously complex problem, and so it makes any kind of solution extra difficult.
Since 2022, the province has been in confidential negotiations with the Coquitlam First Nation about the future of the 244-acre site in Coquitlam. Whether treatment offerings could expand at that location and what that might look like could become key election issues as crimes blamed on mental illness continue to frustrate and anger the public. Penny Daflos, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast will deal with partly cloudy conditions plus a low of 8 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area should be home to mainly cloudy weather as well as a low at 8 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is likely to see some partly cloudy conditions of their own and a low down at 2 degrees. On the North Coast, there next week or so will see a sunny day at the start, then all rain and clouds afterwards as the high bounces between 16 and 13 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the week for them will also see sun at the start before transitioning to only clouds and rain, while the high shifts from 20 to 12 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the upcoming week will begin with some mixed sunny and cloudy days, and then they will also deal with cloudy and rainy days towards the end of the week, while the high moves between 19 and 14 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is a special travel advisory: road sweeping, bridge maintenance, other maintenance, utility work, construction work, crack sealing, pavement patching, fog patches, and the Esk Ferry is out of service due to the low river level. Highway 35 has fog patches. Highway 37 has some maintenance, roadside brushing, and bridge maintenance. And there is some construction work on the Nishka Highway. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, BC is installing new guidelines to try and prevent bear deaths. Welcome back. RCMP and Mission are searching for a man and a woman following an apparent road rage incident that sent 2 people to the hospital with serious injuries after allegedly being beaten with a weapon. As CTV's Ben Milger reports, it apparently started with an interaction in a drive-through lineup.
According to police, an innocent honk. One driver encouraging another to pull forward in the drive-through lane at this Tim Hortons led to a brief chase before a pair of suspects got out of their car with a baseball bat and started swinging. In a news release, police say after both vehicles exited the drive-through, the suspects, driving a black Chevy Malibu, allegedly followed the victims for about 2 kilometers up the Cedar Valley connector. Police say the victims are a 21-year-old woman and a 20-year-old man. A Facebook post by one of their relatives says the young couple were scared and pulled over on Bakerview Avenue. That's when the suspects allegedly came at them, smashing the side windows on their car and then attacking them with the bat, punches, and kicks. Both victims went to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. A photo of the woman shows a pair of black eyes and swelling and bruising around her bloody face. Mission RCMP say they have identified the suspects but won't release their names unless charges are approved. They say they have already located and impounded the Chevy Malibu. In the meantime, as police search for the pair, they have released these photos, hoping the public can help locate them. One is described as a black man in his 30s with a medium build and a full beard. The other is described as a white woman in her 30s with short blonde hair, a sleeve tattoo on her left arm, and a tattoo on her right thigh. Police say the pair are known to travel frequently throughout BC, Alberta, and other western provinces. They don't know if the suspects are still in the Mission area, but encourage anyone who sees them to contact the RCMP. Ben Milger, CTV News, Mission.
As part of an effort to reduce the number of bears that are killed in the province, the BC provincial government is implementing new guidelines. CTV's Martin McMahon has more.
It's been a contentious issue for years, what to do with bears that have had problematic or dangerous interactions with people. And with conservation officers killing more than 600 of the animals last year in BC, the government is forming an expert panel to review how the service operates.
This is a tremendous opportunity and a unique opportunity to advance the well-being and the stewardship of bears in British Columbia. This work is like an essential step in addressing the calls that First Nations, conservation organizations, and the public have made around the number of deaths.
Environment Minister George Heyman hopes this ultimately leads to fewer bears being killed.
This idea of working on training and policy review has been evolving. We didn't want to go ahead without getting engagement and endorsement and participation of First Nations. We have that now.
Conservation groups are watching the situation closely and are hopeful the panel will do more to ensure more bears stay alive.
I think the review of the practices is long overdue. It's in fact something the Auditor General called for during their review of the grizzly bear trophy hunting management many years ago. They commented on the lack of review of this kind of data and information.
The expert panel will deliver its recommendations to the government in spring of next year. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
Next up is the story of a woman living out her final days happily at home and is showing no fear of what awaits her on the other side. Although her decision to pass away at home is not without its complications, CTV's Stephane Giroux reports.
Victoria Taylor is enjoying the last little pleasures of life outside her apartment in the Laurentians. She has ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, and has been rapidly declining in health. There's no known cure. An iPad is now her only way to communicate.
Parce que ce qui te restait.
It's my little paradise, Taylor says through her friend and neighbor Pascal Beauregard. Taylor is in peace. She will die at home. The date is set for medically assisted aid in dying on October 30th.
Je veux pas mourir dans un CHSLD.
I don't want to die in a CHSLD, says the 63-year-old who was diagnosed with ALS in 2022. But Taylor says her determination to die at home led to a painful confrontation with her landlord. She wanted to repossess the apartment and also didn't want Taylor to die there.
Elle avait même établi que jamais.
The landlord argued that medically assisted dying was against her Orthodox religion, but that's not Taylor's belief.
D'être religieux, c'est d'aider son prochain.
Being religious means helping your neighbor. A lawyer friend decided to fight back at no cost.
Was enough for me with all of the harassment and letters and, facts in the file to help me, build up a case.
Last month, the rental board ruled that the religious justification was just an excuse to force Taylor out and allowed her to remain where she is. The landlord says she's the one who was treated unfairly because her goal was to move next to her parents who live upstairs from Taylor. She asked that we hide her identity.
I feel sorry for my dad. My dad is, if I'm not mistaken, 15 years older than Miss Victoria Taylor, and it's my dad. And like I told you twice, he survived twice the cancer.
She blames the rental board for missing key evidence. As for her religious beliefs, she says it's being taken out of context.
I said, Victoria, I feel so sorry for you, all my empathy, but I would appreciate if you could if you feel that you're not capable to handle your life alone, better be in charge of a cell. I said that they always wanted to help her.
Isabelle Métivier is stunned by how far she had to go to protect Taylor.
And even at the hearing, we even suggested to postpone the case for a year because we all knew that Mrs. Taylor would not survive 1 year and just leave it as is, and the landlord refused.
Taylor says she still feels some pressure from her landlord, but as she looks at her calendar,
Tu vas quitter les pieds devant.
I will leave one day, but it will be feet first. Stéphane Giroux, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 21 tenths of a cent, the price of gold is up $10.40, oil is down $2.96, natural gas is up 6 cents, aluminum is up $8.50, in Toronto the TSX is down 24.06 points, the Venture Index is up 3.94, in New York the Dow Jones is down 92.63 and Nasdaq is up 141.28. Still ahead, a Canadian diver is using her own struggles to try and inspire others. Welcome back. Next up is a Lauren Fernandez interview with a Canadian professional diver who is using her struggles with mental health in order to inspire others.
Diving 21 meters straight into the St. Lawrence River is all in a day's work for Molly Carlson.
It was just so special.
Molly says her recent big win in Montreal with the city's skyline as a backdrop is apropos. The Ontario native who now calls our city home says Montreal has played an important role in her life.
I started high diving in Montreal and I became the best version of myself during my high diving career that I feel like Montreal's my safe space to be kind to myself.
Molly admits being kind to herself has been challenging.
And for me, who's been at the lowest of low with an eating disorder, I know what it's like to not be able to talk about it.
The diver is open about her struggles with her 6 million followers on all her social media platforms.
No, because it has to stop now. Comparing ourselves to other people, to the internet, whatever, to yourself is crazy.
She calls her community Brave Gang and encourages others to be vulnerable too.
Not everyone in the world needs to jump off a cliff to be brave. I can connect with all these amazing people if we all realize that we're already brave. I will forever be an activist in the mental health space, in the body image space. I will forever, even after I retire.
But the 25-year-old isn't retiring anytime soon. She plans to compete for at least another 4 years. And when the pressure of her sport becomes too much, she says it's her other career, content creation, that helps keep her balanced.
I started to really go down this dark hole of just thinking I had diving and that the only thing that makes me worthy is my success in sport. And so what being creative and being a content creator gave me is an outlet to have fun again.
And the fun continues with another adventure set for next year.
So I'm going to be launching a podcast. Like 2025, we have huge goals. And it's really just to highlight the community members and to celebrate everyone else's brave journey.
Using her platform to take important conversations to new heights. Lauren Fernandez, CTV News.
That's all our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.